Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 2020 Hong Kong and Taiwan Emergency Medicine Resident Exchange Forum. We are the MCs today for today's event. I am Dr. Diane Lee, attending physician of秀传Memorial Hospital of Taiwan.
Hi, good morning and hello everyone. I'm Dr. Jason Chung, resident specialist of the Department of Emergency Medicine of Queen Elizabeth Hospital of Hong Kong, currently undergoing training for intensive care medicine in Prince of Wales Hospital.
Since 2018, the forum has been held annually in Taiwan and Hong Kong Emergency Medicine Annual Conference. We choose the most popular issues through online vote and invite presenters from Hong Kong and Taiwan to introduce and discuss local situations. Due to COVID-19, this year we have a new way of discussion. We did it online. As you can see, our guests from Hong Kong are all on screen. Let's give them a big applause.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. It is indeed a very special year for the whole world and a big challenge for the healthcare profession, in particularly the field of emergency medicine, who is always at the forefront of the fight against disaster and acute and dire situations. I have participated myself in 3 Hong Kong and Taiwan emergency medicine conferences before, twice in Hong Kong, and once as a presenter myself in Taipei last year, and all had been very memorable moments for myself. We are very happy that we can still meet in the midst of the global epidemic and continue to share knowledge and show support for our counterparts in this format.
We have a live stream shared on Facebook, EMRN Group from Taiwan and EMTN from Hong Kong. Audience on Facebook can leave questions directly under this live stream and we will ask it for you. Live audience can either raise your hand or submit your question on Facebook.
And for participants in Hong Kong, if you are on Zoom, please set your mics to mute at all times. We will have a Q&A session later. If it is your turn to speak or if you have a question, you can unmute your mic and state your name first, and then you can ask your question. We are very honored today to have among us experienced physicians and respectable seniors. For example, Dr. Chip Jin, Wang Jiren 医师, Dr. Xiu Yuzhong, Xiao Yuzhong 医生, Dr. Li Qingxing, Li Jingxing 医生, and Dr. Ben Wen, Wen Guang'an 医生 as the modulators of the conferences today. Dr. Huang Yishi is the Vice Intendant of Changgong Memorial Hospital of Taoyuan. He is also the President of Taiwan Society of Emergency Medicine. His special interest is in administration and also the triage system. May we now invite Dr. Huang Yishi to speak a few words for us. Dr. please.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. And it's very happy today to meet all of our colleagues in Hong Kong and also in Taiwan. I think since Xing organized this Hong Kong and Taiwan Emergency Medicine Forum, we have been doing this, I think it's already for 2 years. So each year we can share the experience, we can meet our old friends. I think it's very good. And today, because of the pandemic, we can see you only in the air. So maybe next year we can meet in person and we can have a very good gathering. So I wish the forum a very success. Thank you.
And Dr. Xiu Yuzhong, he's consultant of Department of Emergency in Ruchunji Hospital and president of Hong Kong College of Emergency Medicine and president-elect of Asian Society of Emergency Medicine and a council member of Hong Kong Red Cross. And he has special interest in resuscitation and pre-hospital medicine. May we now invite Dr. Xiu to speak a few words. Dr. Xiu, please.
Dr. and all the friends in Taiwan and also our colleagues in Hong Kong. It is really our greatest pleasure to be here again, although we are now in 2 different places connecting through the internet, but it is really a great occasion that we can share, and we enjoy this kind of platform that especially for our new generation, they can have the opportunity to share different ideas and also the knowledge in between the 2 different systems of emergency medicines. This is, I can't remember, it's more almost the third time that I've been here, and I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Jin Xing, because he lead the project such that we can help hold this kind of very precious platform for our new generation, and we want to keep it in future, and hope that the pandemic will improve next year, and we will definitely come here to Taipei to go to eat and drink and have a good time later. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Siu. Next, we will have Dr. Li. Dr. Li Jingxing is the chair of Department of Emergency Medicine of Shanggong Memorial Hospital in Keelung. His special interest is in hyperbaric oxygen therapy and also toxicology. He is a volunteer of the EMRN of Taiwan. May we now invite Dr. Li to speak a few words for us. Dr. Li, please.
Hello, all friends from Taiwan and Hong Kong. 大家好. Okay, it's my honor and pleasure to be here and to listen to the trainee and residents presentation about AI and the financial freedom. So I think maybe through this exchange forum, I think hope we can push our practice of emergency medicine to the age of the practice forward. Okay, looking for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Li. Next, last but not least, Dr. Wen Guan An. Doctor, he is Associate Consultant of Emergency Department in Rotunji Hospital and course faculty and course directors in A&E Training Center of Hospital Authority. And he has special interest in pre-hospital and disaster medicine. May we now invite Dr. Wen to speak a few words. Dr. Wen, please.
Dr. Wen, please unmute your mic.
Yes, sorry. Can you hear me? Okay, it is my honor to be here, and I'm glad to see you all in this conference. And thanks Dr. Huang and Dr. Li and their professional teams to organize such a good forum to facilitate the exchange of ideas during this pandemic. And wish you all stay safe and hope that we can meet each other physically in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wen. In the Hong Kong and Taiwan Exchange Forum, we often look at and discuss hot issues not limited to the clinical field, but also the holistic development of emergency physicians as a person and as a member of our society and the global community. This year is no exception. As doctors, we are often very occupied with our busy clinical duties and professional development, but maybe less meticulous with other aspects of life, such as time management, interpersonal relationships, or financial planning.
Our first forum today is Emergency Physicians' Key to Financial Freedom. We will have Dr. Lin Naihui from Taiwan and Dr. Lam Kong Fun from Hong Kong to share with us the current situation of financial planning among EPs on both borders, as well as the global trend in approaching these issues.
May we now let's welcome Dr. Lin. She is a resident of the emergency medicine in Mackay Memorial Hospital. She has a 7-kilogram cat and also a 2-year-old dog. She has collected some questionnaires from both sides and will teach us the ABCs of achieving financial freedom. Dr. Lin, please.
Good morning, distinguished guests. Before I started my today's presentation, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for everyone who participated in my survey. Let's shift to our PowerPoint. Oh, here we go. Okay, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for everyone who participated in my survey. Let's take a short look. The result of my questionnaire in Hong Kong, there are almost 60% residents who would like to respond to my questionnaire. The most majority seniority is between 5 to 10 years. And in Taiwan, that's quite amazingly have almost 60% of attending who respond to my questionnaire. And I have gathered up to 172 respond. And I appreciate there's also both chairmen would like to share their experience with me. Back to our emergency room. As being a well-trained and experienced emergency physician, most of the time we can easily handle the crucial key to lead a successful resuscitation. That's airway, breathing, circulation. But back to financial management, when it comes to it, maybe you will feel clumsy and not very good at this. But that's okay, because we are already smart enough to choose emergency physician as our subspecialty. In America, we do have some financial advantage, like we have one of the highest hour rate in medicine. Also, we have relatively short medicine training program in USA, and they do have peak level of earning is very rapid. It might be the same situation in Taiwan, but not really applied to Hong Kong. And we do have some financial disadvantage as being an emergency physician. Like we lack of financial literacy, we need to work at night, during weekend or holiday. And we are easily burned by exotic investment. But don't worry, SF already published a series of financial planning and management tips for our emergency physician, and could be easily summarized as 3 categories. Let's accumulate wealth, basic assess protection, and create personal business. That's today's emergency key ABC to financial freedom. What's A? Accumulate wealth. First step is saving. Let's take a look of saving and investing rate between Hong Kong and Taiwan. It's quite amazing. We could find like up to 40% of Hong Kong colleagues could save up to 50 to 70% of their salary. And both in Hong Kong and Taiwan, there's about 20% of our colleagues could save less than 10% or even did not have any saving, just like me. And next step, no matter what kind of, how many dollars you need to save, just remind yourself, $1 saved is worth $1, but $1 earned is less than $1 due to tax. Next, cost reduction. The weather leaf color is represent Taiwan's entertainment fee. Like we can find like up to 50% of Taiwan colleagues would spend more than 10% of their salary as entertainment fee. But in Hong Kong, it's quite amazing that all of them could spend less than 10% of their salary as entertainment fee. I have asked Willing, how's that possible? He respond to me that maybe it's because coronavirus, but maybe we can talk about it later. No matter what kind of money you want to spend, just remind yourself, spending more doesn't necessarily bring more happiness. Next, start retirement plan. The vast majority retirement age in Hong Kong and Taiwan is between 45 to 55 years old. And we could amazingly find that there's also some of our colleagues would take emergency physician as their whole life career. In Hong Kong, there's both majority plan as immigrant. Compared to Taiwan, we would like to take a side job or work in outpatient department. They're also quite interesting that some of us would like to be a superstar or be a grandpa. No matter what kind of pension plan you need to have, you only save money. So just begin your retirement plan earlier. The last tip of accumulate wealth is learn about money. Talking about money is never be a shy thing. You can have multiple financial management resources, such as searching online, reading books and articles, watching TV, listen broadcasts, ask your family and friends news, or just like us, join class and join lecture. So what's emergency physician's aid to financial freedom? It's learn about money, start retirement plan, cost reduction, and saving. Next step, B, to financial freedom is basic asset protection. There's a lot of things that we to protect in our life. Family is one of them. Both in Taiwan and Hong Kong, the dependency ratio is 3%. And the cost of living in Taiwan is represent normal distribution. But compared to Hong Kong, it's amazingly show that up to 75% of them could only spend 10 to 30% of their salary as cost of living. It's quite amazing because I thought that Taiwan has relatively cheaper customer price index. And no matter how, we are lucky enough to have self-managed assets, meaning that we could just work together with our family to ensure a financial success. Next, insurance. The insurance costs in Taiwan and Hong Kong, most of us spend less than 10% of salary. And the insurance annuity in Hong Kong, most majority is professional liability insurance, critical illness, and death insurance. But most Taiwan's colleagues would like to have critical illness insurance, personal accident insurance, disability insurance, and also death insurance. Insurance, just remember, if someone else depends on you, buy a large life insurance for financial catastrophe. Next, give it away. It could superficially think that there's something that belongs to you. Nobody can take it away from you. So let's take out a loan. In Taiwan, there's up to 68% of us would like to have ever applied a loan. Most of it were mortgage. Compared to Hong Kong, there's up to 87% of them have ever applied for a loan. And there's not surprising found that they don't have any loan for a car. Maybe it's because they're successful and very convenient communication system. So the best way to avoid losing something in a lawsuit is not to own it in the first place. The next tip, maximum pension account. I'm not going to tell you what's the average income in both Taiwan and Hong Kong, but the expanding pension is quite about the same. It's up to 36 million NT dollar to 40 million NT dollar. So what emergency physicians be to financial freedom? Basic asset protection. Just keep in your mind that livelihood insurance give it away a maximum pension account. The last key to financial freedom is create personal business. First thing in create personal business is marketing risk. In the beginning, I thought that as emergency doctor, we would like to take more high risk because our personality and we have seen a lot of different things in our emergency room. And Hong Kong's risk tolerance is quite compared to my thought. There's up to 87% of them would take moderate to extreme tolerant risks of investment. But quite surprisingly, I found Taiwan's is opposite way. Most of us would take low risk tolerance. No matter what kind of tolerance you would like to take, the amount of risk we should take depends on our unique ability, need, and desire to take risk. Next, managing. Just like my previous saying, like I thought that Taiwan's emergency physician or in Hong Kong were more aggressively, so we might take interesting in our investment daily. But we're quite surprisingly found that there's up to 40% of us would like to do nothing and show a relative passive investment behavior. But no matter what kind of your manager behavior of your investment, just know that completely passively manage matter more than optimize your asset allocation. Next thing is spreading. There's a whole lot more investment target in the market. And in Taiwan, we would like to have stock, ETF, real estate, fund. That's in Taiwan's colleague would like to have investment target. But compared to Hong Kong, there's quite amazing found that up to 85% of them have real estate and up to 60% they have fund and stock. But today, when you are very new as me to want to have a target, then the top 3 in Taiwan would be stock, endowment, and real estate. But in Hong Kong, the major target would be found. So spreading, just let you know, don't put all your egg in one basket. The last thing in create personal business is converting. There's an exercise called FIR exercise that could rapidly convert your income to wealth. But what's FIR exercise? We will let William tell you later. Just don't rush. So, what's emergency physicians see to financial freedom? Let's create personal business. It's marketing risk, managing, spreading, and converting. Accumulate wealth, basic assets protection, create personal business. That's today's emergency physician's key ABC to financial freedom. I'm Nikki Ling from Mackay Hospital. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Dr. Lin. We will then move on to Dr. Lim Ka-feng's presentation before we open the floor of questions. Dr. Lim is an emergency medicine specialist and associate consultant of the emergency department in Chung Kwan O Hospital. Apart from medicine, he has a particular interest in various kinds of investment, ranging from stocks, options, bonds, and funds to leverage manipulation. He is also a major shareholder of Ultimate Strategy Company Limited, which focus on real estate development and consultation in Hong Kong. In his presentation, he will provide some tips on how to attain financial freedom, including the FIRE approach, financial independence, retire early, and its 4% rule. Dr. Lam, please.
So good morning. So could you hear me? So good morning, seniors, fellow colleagues in Taiwan and Hong Kong. So I'm William Lam from将軍澳Hospital in Hong Kong. So today I would like to briefly talk about the emergency physician's keys to financial freedom. So when we meet friends, it's completely normal to talk about weather, hobbies, to a lesser extent, sometimes politics or life philosophies. Yet, it is still uneasy and conservative for us to talk about the balance of a bank account or your debt. So I don't mean to be judgmental or offensive today, but this is my humble opinion sharing only. So first of all, I would like to thank my friend Victor. Actually, he is a certified financial planner who gives us some insight on today's sharing and talks. So what is financial freedom? In a very simple definition, financial freedom is when your passive income or residual savings is more than your regular expense. So this is at the point of early retirement. And for most of us, it might be too early to talk about retirement. But from another point of view, financial freedom does not only talk about retirement, but to live our purpose of life, such as work is no longer earning, but enjoying. So I would like to talk about a concept of ESBI. Actually, this is a concept first raised by Robert Kiyosaki. You might have heard of it or read his book called The Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So in our society, people work are generally divided into 4 quadrants. Most of them are employees and self-employed, like most of us as emergency physicians, whether you're in public or private sectors, which constitute 90% of our society. On the other hand is the business owner and investor, which constitute a very minor proportion. So the interesting thing is these are 2 different groups. For employees or self-employed, we are the active income group, so which means you work for money and you need to spend a lot of time and effort on work to earn some money. On the other hand, for the employees, for the investors, they're what we call passive income group. The system works for them. With some time and effort, they can generate money. So, which means as an employee or self-employed, it is rather a little bit difficult for financial freedom. On the other hand, it might be easier for them to achieve financial freedom. So I would like to talk about what Dr. Lin has mentioned, the FIRE movement in Western. Actually, FIRE is a growing community of people of all types and income levels. They committed to lives of aggressive savings and low-cost investments in order to take control of their finances and buy back their precious home. So surprisingly, people in FIRE community in the West are in the higher earning brackets. And actually, this is a book I've read about before, about financial freedom. It is written by the Scott Rickens, who is a film producer and director in US, Los Angeles. This is actually a story about him pursuing FIRE, financial independence, retire early, and his midlife. In essence, FIRE talks about spend less, save more, invest the difference, and avoid debt. Instead of saving every last penny and trying to reach retirement as soon as possible, it's about building a lifestyle that aligns with your larger life purpose, even while you're still working. Now, after all, retirement isn't the answer to every problem. And I believe most of us here, as an emergency physician, would like to pursue as a career to work for whole life rather than a job. So regardless of one's financial situation, the author suggested us to create a personal mission statement by answering 3 important questions. So first of all, what are your most important life goals? What will you do if you only had 6 months leave? And how do you want to spend the next 5 years? So by answering these might help you motivate to kick off financial independence and aim higher to retire early. So how does it actually work? It consists of quite a few steps, but in a very short summary, it involves, first of all, calculate how much you have first by subtracting your assets by liabilities. Assets could be cash, could be your just savings, retirement funds, could be your investments, and liabilities means those you are in debt, like mortgage, car loans, consumer debt. And then you need to create a balance sheet to figure out how much you're spending and saving. And for the spending less part is actually quite habitual, like some small stuff like cut down on fun spending, cut down on some online purchases, clothes, and especially the big 3, the housing, transportation, and food. And then FIRE movement aims for more radical saving habit. It aims at saving up to 50 to 70% of your income. So looking back to some Hong Kong data, according to a survey conducted by Hong Kong Deposit Protection Board in 2019, only 65% of Hong Kong people in general public have some saving planned. The median saving amount is around $5,000, 5,000 Hong Kong dollars. Compared to the salary in Hong Kong, which is around 20,000, the saving rate is around only 25%, which is far lower than our emergency physicians, according to the survey. You might ask why the saving rate borders. We could have a look at the online retirement calculator from a website called Playing with Fire. So this is a website written by the same author, Scott, who wrote the book. And actually, there are some assumptions we can go through later. Assuming you are now 30-year-old with an annual income of 100K per year, this is all hypothetical, and of which you spend 70% of it, which means you save 30% of your salary in cash. And you don't need to worry about any inflation or deflation problem. So you spend 100%, save in cash 30% of the amount. By the calculator, you could retire in 54 years. How about if you save 40% of your salary, like here? By increasing 10% of saving rate and save them all in cash, you can achieve retirement earlier in 34 years. How about 50%? You can achieve in 22 years. And most amazingly, if you further increase the saving rate, you could even retire in 14 years by saving 60% of the salary. So the beauty of high saving rate, I think, is twofold. First of all, we learn to live less and we have more to invest. So with a pool of money from high saving rate, we try to invest with the way what FIRE advocates, the 4% rule. So this is a 4% rule is raised by an academic economist called William Benjamin from Trinity University back in 90s in US. Actually, this is also known as a safe withdrawal rate, which means you withdraw 4% of your retirement portfolio balance each year and adjust for inflation. That means you need to save 25 times of your annual expense. And then you follow back the 4% rule. By the assumptions, you could create a paycheck that lasted for 30 years with a very high successful rate. So it assumes that you have 50% of stocks and 50% of bonds in your portfolio. And with the historic returns in US index market, which were close to 7%. So back to the investment strategies, according to the FIRE community, there are several ways to FIRE people to invest. The most notable is the tracking index funds, such as some S&P 500, which tracks the 500 largest companies in US market. When we look back the historical data adjusted for inflation, the average annual return is around 7% already. Warren Buffett also consistently recommends the low-cost index funds for average investor like us. For other investment strategies like bonds, equities, or even saving cash, actually they are all quite well adopted in the FIRE community as well. Here is a very quick example of some index fund in Hong Kong, which is a tracker fund 2800. 20 years back, when it first launched, it was only $11.5. Until yesterday, it was $25.8. With the total interest given in between, the profit over these 20 years is already over 200%. If you calculate the compound interest, annual return is almost over 6%. So which means the index fund is a way to one way to diversify your risk and also to attain a return, which is quite comfortable. However, Nobel Prize winner William Sharpe once said, retirement income planning is the hardest and nastiest problem in finance. And I do agree with that, because even for these kind of rigid rule, there are still a lot of limitations. For example, if you invest this pool of money in the market, and there was a very sudden fluctuation in the market very early in your investment life, it could easily disturb the total pool amount, and it could disturb the sustainability of your retirement income planning. And as we said, it is a quite rigid rule, which means you need to take 4% of your pool of money every year. However, spending in retirement life isn't constant anyway. You might get ill. You need to have some cash for buying houses for your sons, might be in Hong Kong case, and it might not be enough if you live too long. These are all the practical problems issues here. But after all, I do believe FIRE is just a concept out of numerous approaches to financial freedom, and I don't mean to judge materialism. But I think it's always good for FIRE people to make intentional choices. And I think the important thing is to figure out what's important to us and to intern ourselves in those situations. And financial independence is like heading towards a cliff. And if you don't learn to fly before you get to the edge, you'll never jump. So these are some books I would like to share if you are interested in knowing more about the FIRE stuff. This website, Playing FIRE, is also, as mentioned, written by Scott. You can have fun with those calculators. And this is a book, A Simple Path to Wealth. Actually, J.L. Collins is one of the pioneers in FIRE community, and he gives out some more practical strategies in investment planning in this FIRE movement. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lam and Dr. Lin, for the very interesting talks. Now, may we welcome any questions for both Dr. Lin and Dr. Lam. May we first ask the modulators if they have any questions for both speakers. Dr. Lee and Dr. Ng, maybe, or Dr. Siu, Dr. Wen.
I think this is a very interesting topic, and I know from Dr. Lin from Taipei Makai Hospital, I know that she has a pet, but I haven't actually know that what is the planning of how to invest. But just now I saw a figure from Dr. Lam's PowerPoint, the 2800. So the tracker funds, I think is quite interesting. So I will try to follow up the fund, and maybe next year I can treat you a meal because I'm invest on that fund. Thank you.
It's just basically sharing, not any advice or actually I don't have a license.
Actually, I need to declare that I'm not a good or very experienced investor. Otherwise, I may not be. I may be like some other colleagues who may work in other aspects. As an emergency physician, probably it will be not easy for us to go become financial freedoms, because most of the time they need to work and to train during the initial 6 years, and after that they may need to build up their career in various specialty. That may not be easy for them unless they may have they have a very good planning well before they become a doctor at that time. So I wonder whether either Williams or the Lin had any advice for the new trainees, that whether they need to have some special planning once they step into the training program, well, on the first day, well before the program, well before they become a emergency physician, because probably for us, we may be too late for us to start the plan.
I think it's never too late to say to achieve financial freedom. And actually, I myself as well, I found actually now back to our universities or secondary school curriculum is it's rather sad that we don't have actually a lot of advice or teaching on financial planning. Or even some saving habits, or even some basic attitudes towards finance problem. So I after graduation, actually, I throughout the years, I try to read some books, I try to attend courses, and I do find these kind of topics interesting and essential to my life planning besides my career. So I think it's always good to have more taste of the investments, and it's always never too late.
Yeah, thanks, William. Probably besides the academic aspect, probably the college or the society should think about whether we need to add this kind of activities to our members and fellows.
For the participants in Taiwan, you can now either raise your hand, we'll pass a microphone to you. 这时候问问题可以讲中文，大家不要害怕。Or write it on Facebook thread, so we will ask it for you. 现场有人要问问题吗？还是分享自己的投资经验？好。
各位好，我是台大医院的林浩洋医师。那我想请问的是，乃会就是说你做的调查里面有一个是香港医师跟台湾医师在买保险上的差异。 那不知道里面有没有细问说这些保险它就是给付的内容，或者是说它的一些，因为看起来像香港医师的那个意外险买的比较少，那不知道是不是像问现场的贵宾是不是这样子，然后不知道原因有可能是什么？谢谢。
Thank you for your asking. And actually, my questionnaire did not take further investment about how the actual content in the insurance, because there's a whole lot of different insurance and their content from different company is different. But I think that maybe we can ask the Hong Kong colleague to reply this answer to us, and maybe it will be the next year's topic. Is there any Hong Kong colleague would like to share what kind of insurance or why you would like to buy other than accidental insurance? What about Williams? Did you have ever buy any accidental insurance, or yes or no, and why?
Probably I can start that. Oh, sorry, really want to say something? I'd like you to say.
Oh, I think most of the doctors here, we buy the professional insurance with indemnity, and also provided by our public hospital if we are the trainees here. Yes.
I think there are two aspects. The first aspect, the professional liability that William has mentioned about. The other aspect, probably I can share my experience, because in Hong Kong, our trainees are all working in the public sector. So for the medicals, for example, for hospitals medical expenditure, probably they may not be a very great issue especially for the young generation. But later on, when they try to build up their access by, for example, they purchase a flat, the properties. Actually, because you know, in Hong Kong, the properties cost is really, really great, and the mortgage probably takes 20 years or even 30 years to complete. So they will try to think about whether if there's any problems, especially any health problem or any accident that make them they cannot continue their job, that there will be a great issue to complete the mortgage. So people may start to think about this kind of the life insurance or insurance related to critical illness. That's so that it can be reflected by the pattern of the insurance that built from the survey.
Oh, okay, thank you, Dr. Shou. And is there any questions? Okay, thank you. I think it's time to move on to our next topic. Jason, do you know anything about artificial intelligence? Are you afraid of them, or you're happy to work with them? Please unmute.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me now? Yes. I think if you are talking about AI, if they are funny or cute like the movie characters C-3PO or R2-D2 in Star Wars, yes, I'll be very happy to work with them. But if you mean AI like they are on the ECG machines, like when they predict or give you some a preliminary diagnosis, no, I think I will only trust them at most for 50%.
Yeah, it's true. Currently, we have many digital things to help us to do decision-making or prognosis prediction. AI is the trend and will indeed change your life soon in the future. In this section, we invite Dr. Hou Ka in from Hong Kong and Dr. Chen Weigang from Taiwan to share with us about artificial intelligence in emergency medicine. Let's firstly welcome Dr. Hou Ka Yen. Dr. Hou is an emergency medicine resident trainee currently working in廣華Hospital of Hong Kong. Dr. Hou, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Karen Hou from廣華Hospital. Can you hear me clearly? Okay, so I'm going to share with you the topic of AI in emergency medicine. Actually, myself, I have no idea what's AI, before doing this presentation. So I will share what I found with you. So what is AI? Actually, AI, by definition, is something that enables computers to emulate the human cognitive functioning. The benefit is unlike a human, it's not susceptible to fatigue, distractions, memory loss. And how do we build AI is from a lot of data. We use a lot of data, and then AI can predict something useful. But it's actually the human knowledge that helps the AI algorithm to understand the data. So actually, without the human knowledge, AI cannot do its job. So there are two basic definition for AI. One is autonomy, the other is adaptivity. So autonomy, that it can perform its task by itself, and adaptivity, that it can improve its performance by learning from its experience from the data that we feed to the algorithm. So these are the examples of AI outside healthcare, self-driving cars, the content recommendations on Facebook, Instagram, other social media, and image video processing, GPS system to find the fastest routes, and also some style transfer filters. So since I know nothing about AI, I did a simple research. So basically, it's a field of it's a subfield of computer science. It's also include machine learning and also deep learning. So machine learning is many methods used to extract patterns from data so that we can predict the future, some trend, and also understand a phenomenon. So it can improve with more data fed to the system. So also during my search for AI, there's a lot of philosophy. So we don't know what is AI. So is it like human? Some say that there's actually is not intelligent. They are not like human in the way that human can think. But actually our focus is not that important whether the AI system is intelligent or not. We just should focus on investigating a system that can be helpful in solving practical problems. So in AI in medicine, there are mainly two fields. So clinical part and also the non-clinical part. So some of the application in the clinical part include a diabetic retinopathy, retinal imaging. So a system was designed, was created to detect signs of DR in retinal image, followed by a remote evaluation by clinicians. So because a lot of patients, they don't do regular screening and the adherence are low. So to detect the DR at an early age, so we want to take the photographs, the image using a fundus camera, so that the diagnostic result can be provided in a remote place quickly, and then later for screening for clinicians. So it already has a FDA approval in 2018, and compared with the gold standard, it has actually achieved 87% sensitivity and 90% specificity in the primary care setting. So other applications in the world include patient at risk for adverse drug events parade program in the US, Texas. So it screen all patients at admission by capturing the medical history in real time, and then it can calculate risk level of risk with AI and flag high risk individuals for pharmacy intervention. So it can already reduce a lot of A&E admissions, and for those receiving intervention, the 30-day readmission rates were reduced by 24%. So there's also another AI disability mobile app developed in Australia, which can help the visually impaired people to receive audio prompts about objects in their immediate surroundings while wearing a stereo headset. The app will name the roads and the landmarks around them, so giving them more confidence to confidence for them to work on their own. So these are also other well-known healthcare AI systems in the US and also the UK. So what about specifically in emergency medicine? So what do we have in emergency medicine? So actually, it can provide increased speed and accuracy because of the unique nature of EM, especially we need to deal with fast and accurate decision with high acuity patients. So actually, AI can provide the solution to us. So mainly in these 6 categories. So first, from research, there's a e-triage system in the US. It can help to differentiate 65% of CAT-free patients and either increase or decrease the triage severity more effectively. So it's mainly a random forest AI model using the vital signs, chief complaint, and also active medical history, and predict its need for critical care, emergency procedure, or hospitalization. So, and other application includes predicting of a patient outcomes. These are the few studies that I found, like a Recoma, they can predict inpatient hospital mortality, and Leo can predict cardiac arrest within 72 hours, applying the vital sign and medical record data. And Shandia, they have used a system to predict the out-of-hospital cardiac arrest defibrillation success rates. And there's also another one for 30-day mortality following ST elevation MI, and a sepsis score, which is proven to be better than our mortality in the ED sepsis score. Others include prediction and the trauma. The AI system developed by Safari, they can capable of predict the need of life-saving intervention. And also there's also an AI system for predicting patients, identifying trauma patients who are likely to have a positive CT result. So even though these are not these prediction AI systems, they are less focused on the initial acuity of the patient, they can still impact our A&E, running of our A&E by informing the amount of investigation needed, how quickly to be completed, and how closely to be followed in A&E. So it can also speed up our daily work. So the next part is on the interpretation of diagnostic tests, mainly on fractures and also intracranial pathology. Like you can use Germaidulin. They have developed an AI model to identify vertebral pathology on MRI, and some identify fractures on radiographs, and also detect SAH, epidural hematoma on CT scan, with a very high sensitivity and negative predictive value. So other technology was also developed around the artificial intelligence, like some microwave imaging helmet to accurately differentiate ischemic and hemorrhage stroke in a pre-hospital environment. And also algorithm was developed to detect 15 different arrhythmia on ECG. So other part of AI is for monitoring, like during patients in the observation ward, we can use this system to monitor the heart rate and the BP, so they can detect sepsis earlier to the clinical onset. So there are also other novel technologies developed to measure the heart rate, respiratory rates, with using only video without any patient contact, and also predict the BP using ECG recording. Yes, all under development. So extending outside the emergency department, there's also home monitoring tools for patients at home. Like the first system developed detect COPD exacerbations 5 days before the patient seeks treatment, and then some also is able to detect asthma exacerbation in treatment 1 week before onset of symptoms by using the patterns in the asthma and the environmental factors collected in a self-reporting tracking database. So other novel technologies developed include a wrist-worn accelerometers to detect seizures, and a smart carpet to detect fall, some smartphone audio application to detect falls in elderly. So for documentation, AI was developed, the natural language processing was developed, which is capable of drafting a patient and a physician interaction. And some were also developed to identify sepsis, acute appendicitis, and also influenza using the data available in the notes. And another system in the West called Core-T AI system, it can help to assist emergency dispatches by indicating whether a patient can have a particular presentation. So it can automatically extract the address, etc. So reducing the time needed to complete a call. So this is a summary of the use of AI in emergency department. So what about the AI scene in Hong Kong? So I have done a survey, and with very luckily 57 responses. So most of our doctors, emergency physicians, they are not quite familiar with the history and the use of AI in healthcare settings. So the score, 1 being a layman level and 5 being expert level. So most of them are between 1 to 3. So most of us, about 4 quarters, 4 over 5, they have not studied AI before, and then the hospital does not provide any training, and only about 1/5 of us have used AI in our emergency department. And very, very few, only 2 persons participate in the development of AI. So among the 1/5 of us who use AI, the most commonly used is interpreting diagnostic imaging, and also clinical monitoring, and some tools for predicting outcomes, triage, ECG. And it seems positive that they think is quite accurate, moderately accurate, and helpful, quite helpful. So mainly in Hong Kong, the AI in the EM scene is for the interpretation of a diagnostic imaging. So other AI system in Hong Kong outside EM include, like the previously mentioned, system to screen the diabetic retinopathy using a fundus camera, and which can be uploaded to the system and generate the diagnosis itself, so that allowing the ophthalmologist for early screening. So other system proposed include a surgical instrument counting AI system. So it can help by performing a camera scan and then automatically count the number of instruments on the tray and improve speed and accuracy. So in our outpatient clinic, there's a massive amount of chest X-ray. So it's also developed in the GOPD clinic for screening of chest X-ray. And as I said before, it's also implementing in some of our A&E. So mainly the focus now in Hong Kong is smart hospital instead of just AI. Like in the news, we are promoting a system called the EAED. So it's like a digitalized, computerized system. So from registration, triage to medical consultation, everything will be computerized. And other departments like the radiology ward can assess the status of patient in our A&E as well. So other systems developed include the e-platform, So it can enhance and communication and coordination of patient transfer to an observation ward is in practice in United Christian Hospital, and also a smart monitoring with auto charting of vital signs is also in practice in United Christian Hospital. So other application of AI is a smart hospital developed in将军澳Hospital, the surgical department, mainly not specifically on AI, but more on a computerized system. So like the auto dashboard, they can capture all the vital signs and see the workflow of in the operation department, and also auto counting of the stock availability in the OT. And also this is one of the most promoted hospital. Is a private hospital developed by our Chinese University of Hong Kong. So it's some news were used to promote it, and so it's mainly a computerized system from the electronic digital record to how the patient is moved in the hospital. They use an app on the mobile phone for registration to assist the patient flow in the hospital, so they can avoid waiting for a long time. And also applied in it's also applied in the use of internet integrated system for also handling payment and etc. So the whole system is electronized in terms of the documentation, in terms of the patient flow in the hospital, and also the and also some equipment supply and for the hospital running is also in a computerized format. So there's also noted in the news that we can see some hospital in Taiwan. Taiwan also has a lot of smart hospital, and this is a piece of news that I got comparing Chizai Yiyuan and our smart hospital. So what are the potential barriers in AI? So mainly the cost of adaptation and training, and also the technical difference among different hospital systems. So also the black box phenomenon, because we cannot quite understand algorithm generated. It is based on evaluation on its own, so we cannot understand how it actually generate the output. So it can create some barrier to acceptance. So some people suggest that to increase the transparency and patient safety, we can find some ways to dissect its decision-making process. So just like how we analyze the humans provided decision through MLM, mortality and morbidity rounds. So also there are, to start practicing AI, we can start with some more specific, simpler binary decisions like radiograph reading, instead of higher level decisions like a disposition, which require application of ethics and patient-centered care. So we can also use AI for ruling in first instead of ruling out diagnosis. So this can help us to avoid the barrier to acceptance. So also it's quite difficult to assess AI, but since most of us, we don't have a computer and a mathematical background, and also there are very few randomized controlled trials now, and there's no universally recognized and utilized reporting guidelines for research in AI. So it can create some difficulty for us. However, in the scene in Hong Kong, how do we look at this? So mainly we are quite positive. Like most of us, we look forward to the application of AI. Most of us are not afraid of using AI, and quite a number of us believe in the decision of made by AI. So mainly, I think from my survey, we are quite positive in acceptance to the use of AI in the future. So there's also other problem with AI, like the assignment of liability if something happened. So who is responsible for the decision? And also how regularly that the system has to be assessed to make sure that it's working fine. Because like as I mentioned earlier, the machine, they keep changing, keep learning new stuff. So we have to be keep regularly looking into it and regularly assess whether they are still functioning okay, just like other medication and medical device. So in our survey, so from my survey, so usually if the decision of AI contradicts with us, most of the physician will choose to re-examine the decision. And in case that they make a wrong decision, most of us, the 63%, think that it will be our responsibility. And only about 22% thinks that it will be the manufacturer, and the others are mainly both, it depends. So another part for a problem with AI is information privacy, because it needs a large amount of data to function properly. And however, it can, on the other hand, lax policy can promote some uptake of disruptive technologies, posing a threat to patient safety. So some people mentioned that we can, apart from the technical security measures, we can also promote a platform for patients to ask and understand questions, how their data can be used. And we can use a granular consent model, and also developers and third parties are encouraged to contact patients directly to ask for permission to use their data. So, so another problem is how we integrate into our existing clinical systems. So some actually mentioned that like electronic medical record have a negative effect on the provider time management and the patient-provider relationship. And also with the complexity and scale, it may demand a very large commitment from our hospital management team. So it's better that we start the program as a very narrow focus part, focusing on a specific issue, like just a specific part, like triaging in the emergency department. So developers are also encouraged to work closely so that they can it can be tailored to our the site's unique clinical workflows. So last,
hi Karen,
yes.
The time is almost. See if you can wrap up the presentation in around 1 minute.
Okay, it's almost the end. Sorry. Also, to encourage, the last is to encourage AI through teaching and education. So at the end, I'm share with some of survey results. So most of us are actually not too early being replaced by AI, and most of us are quite 68% are very willing to learn AI as well. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ho. We will next have Dr. Chen Weigang, a resident from the emergency department from Lancet International Hospital, to share with us about the current AI applications in Taiwan, how everyone feels, and the little problems that we may encounter when facing new technologies. Dr. Chen, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chen Weigang. I am the fourth-year resident of Emergency Department of Lancet International Hospital. And today we will talk about the artificial intelligence in emergency medicine. So nowadays we have so many AI applications in our real world, just like Tesla, Amazon Go, Face ID. So how about the AI application in the ED in Taiwan? So to answer this question, I set a questionnaire and searched the help from the Taiwanese emergency doctor. And I want to answer two questions. The first one is how we EM does use the AI in the ED. And the second one is how we EM doctor face the AI. There is 36 responses. I know that many EM doctors are interested in AI, but not all of them are familiar with the AI. And the key point is that not everyone has ever used AI in the ED. So I very appreciate the response that make me can accomplish this report. So let's see what the survey tells us. There is only 1/3 of emergency physician has ever used AI in the ED. And the most common AI used in the ED is the imagery recognition. And the second one is use AI to make a medical diagnosis. And the third one is use AI to predict the severity of a disease. So to understand how AI can be applied in the ED in more detail, I will show you guys some more examples. So to gather the information about the AI, I searched the Google. I Googled the news, the social media, and the hospital's website, and I found that almost hospital in Taiwan has cooperated with an AI company. Our Ministry of Science and Technology has also collaborated with some medical centers. They said a big database of medical image, so that if you are interested in AI, you can use the data from the cloud service. So first one is an AI device that can detect the temperature and check if you are wearing mask or not. The Genshin Hospital has cooperated with the Microsoft to sell this AI device. Microsoft used the train AI model to do the image recognition in real time. And if it detects something wrong, it will give back the warning signal to the personnel. So this kind of device can improve the efficiency of epidemic prevention, and it will reduce the workload of frontline staff. And he helped us to use the limited human resource more effectively. And next one is the AI systems that can interpret the chest X-ray. Professor Jiang Longxian from Cheng Kung University, he lead a team named Matrix to join an international COVID-19 epidemic prevention and technology hackathon. The team is the only one team from Taiwan who win the game. The AI systems can only take 1 second to identify that if the patient has COVID-19 or not. And its accuracy is about 92%. The next one is an AI system designed by the Chang'an Mary Hospital. The AI systems can detect the pelvic fracture, and it is the first AI product that made by the AI lab from the Chang'an Mary Hospital. It can help the junior resident reduce the risk of misdiagnosis. And in Tainan, there is a Chime Hospital that has AI ER systems, which can predict the outcome of the patient who got the influenza. The AI also can apply on the patient with pneumonia, pancreatitis, UTI, and sepsis, chest pain. They gather the past 10 years data and they use machine learning to train the AI model. Not every hospital can detect can check the level of potassium in the ER immediately by the gas machine. Thus, the child service hospital, the hospital belong to the national military, train the AI model to interpret the ECG to predict the level of potassium. Let's show a story that one day a male come into the ER with severe bradycardia. His heart rate was only 21 beats per minute. And the ER doctor used the AI systems to make a diagnosis of hyperkalemia immediately, and of course, treat the patient successfully. They say like, if there was no AI systems, then have to wait for more than 30 minutes for library data. And we all know that if it's too crowded in the ED, the quality of health care will decline. So National Taiwan University Hospital want to use AI to change the medical process. They want to aim to use AI to achieve following goals. The first one is to get a fast and accurate triage. And second one is also fast and accurate history analysis. And the third one is that they hope use AI to set a warning system that can detect the high-risk patient. And they also want to use AI to make an early and safe discharge plan. They want use AI to predict the outcome of all-cause patient, and hope the AI can give them good advice for the plan. The Taipei Medical University Hospital engage AI into their ICU. We all know it's well evidence that if we can treat sepsis as early as possible, we can decrease the mortality rate. So the AI, they use the AI to gather the physiology data, and the AI can gather the data automatically, and it can predict the onset of sepsis, so that the doctor in the ICU can prescribe antibiotics as soon as possible. They also have AI systems that can prevent medical error. The medical error is the third leading cause of death in the United States. And more than half prescription error is caused by the doctor who prescribed the wrong in the beginning. So they designed this AI system called MakeGod. The systems can scan the prescription once the doctor sends one. If the prescription is found to be problematic, it will give back soon about the proper medical diagnosis and recommended medications. So this AI, compared to a traditional warning system, which only remind the doctor from the general and big principle, the MakeGod systems can give feedback based on the patient's actual situations. Tzu Hospital also has an AI engine that can recommend the doctor for the possible ICD-10 code. Once the doctor enter into the clinical note, including treatment complaint, the present illness, the past history, the AI can recommend the doctor about the proper ICD-10 code. The AI also can remind the doctor if the ICD-10 code made by the doctor are not compatible with the content the doctor write. Our CDC also has an AI service that can identify the species of snake. And if you get bit by the snake and you are not sure what kind of snake it is, you can take a photo and upload the photo. The AI system will give back the possible diagnosis immediately. And the AI system can also tell you where are the nearest hospital that has antiviral serum. So you can visit the hospital as soon as possible. The CDC also cooperate with ACE company. They said through forecast station. The AI system can predict the number of emergency department visits in the next 4 weeks. They provide the reference for the local health office and hospital to help them to make the epidemic prevention and the epidemic decisions and medical diversion more accurately. So until now, we have talked about some AI application in the ED. However, most of them belong to the hospital who design the AI, who train AI. Here, I want to introduce an AI product named DeepCity. It's the first AI product that in Taiwan and in the Asia that has obtained the clearance from the Taiwan and the United States FDA. is designed by Taiwanese company named Deep01. And it cooperates with many medical centers and regional hospitals to gather their data and train the AI model. The Deep CT can detect the ICH and the midnight shift within 30 seconds. And its accuracy is as high as 95%. So on the right side is the raw data. Is what we can see on the traditional viewer. And on the left side is what AI, it shows how AI circle the ICH area by a red line. And the AI systems can measure the volume automatically. And if he detects something wrong, he will show the warning signal on the interface table. So imagine like one day, you are busy, you are handling with a trauma patient, the shock patient, and here comes a conscious change patient. You want to check if there is any ICH, so you order a brain CT. However, while you waiting for the report of brain CT, you continue to handling with the patient in the ED. After you finish your job, and you suddenly notice that you forgot the brain CT you just ordered. And when you check the brain CT, there is ICH. And it may have passed about 1 hour or 2 hours. And then you consult a neurosurgeon who will be very angry about why you delay so much. So the Deep CT will change this kind of problem. Once the brain CT was done, the system can stand the CT immediately. It takes only 30 seconds. And if there is something wrong, you will inform the doctor on duty. And if your hospital is in an emergency network, you can also notify the hospital in your emergency network so that it can shorten the time they prepare for a second further treatment plan. It can use not only in trauma patient, but also in stroke patient. So Dr. Guo, the director from the AI Core Laboratory of Chang'e Mary Hospital, he said, the value of AI is not how high the accuracy is. It's about how it can change the way we meet the patient. Sounds so inspiring, right? So would you like to use AI now? Or do you still not believe in AI? So let's go back to a questionnaire. So would you help me, AI? So it's what the survey tells us. More than half of EN doctors are looking forward to using AI. And most of us are willing to use AI. But only 20% of the EN doctors are believe in AI. So when talk about fear, less of us are not feel afraid of AI, and we are not worried about being replaced by the AI. But it's about one third EM doctor that are worried about being replaced by someone knows AI well. Okay. When AI correct your order, what would you do? More than half of doctors say they will search the second opinion, and 1/3 of EM doctors say they believe in their own decisions. When AI goes wrong, who should take a responsibility? It's 50-50. 47% of EM doctors say it's doctors wrong, and 44% say that the AI company should take a responsibility. And if you are a manager, how much do you want to buy an AI service for a single function? The average number is about 1 million. So it's the same as you guys think. The Keith Lee, a master of AI, who drew down this picture, because so many people asked him, would the AI replace my job? And he tried to explain this question by write down this picture. We can see that we general physicians are on the upper left corner. It means that some part of our job are routine job, which means that it can be done repeatedly, and it can be done on the structural environment. But our jobs still need a strong social ability. So carefully think that the AI can do analytics thinking better than our human beings, just like AlphaGo beat the human professional Go player. However, we human beings don't like to talk robotic tone machine without emotional expression. So he think that in this society still need doctor to connect AI with the patient, to let doctor to show our empathy and make the patient feel warmth. So I think AI not only means artificial intelligence, but also means augmented intelligence. I really expect that the human and AI can cooperate and make our emergency life more safer and comfortable. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Now, may we ask if there's any questions for both speakers, maybe from both the modulators and also from the floor? Just speak freely.
Sorry, Ben, can you unmute yourself?
So thanks, Dr. Ho and Dr. Chen, for your very detailed discussion. Yes, AI is very, very exciting and will undoubtedly benefit our work. But I would like to know more. Since we have discussed the financial freedom earlier this morning, would you give us some insights on the financial freedom for planning with the use of AI? The use of AI in the planning for financial freedom. Thank you.
I think the problem is so difficult. I will do some work and send you the answer.
Thank you. Because I predict that I may not be able to achieve the financial freedom before the age of 70.
现场各位有问题吗 ？OK。
我
是谁？我是谁？
我 Sam， Sam， 我有一些问题想问台湾的医师，听到吗？
听到。
听到好。我就想请问一下，因为我刚刚看见那个台湾的医师现在就讲了很多，就是关于 AI 的应用，特别在这个急诊室里面的应用，但是好像在我们香港就比较现在还没有。
不好意思，杨医师，你声音有点小。
听到吗？这样？
很小声。
很小。
这样听到吗？还不可以。那这样听到吗？
稍微大一些。
好一点吗？这样。
好，听到。
听到吗？
听到。
我就想问一下，因为在香港这应用好像比较少一点，但是在台湾好像就我们看见就比较多一点的应用 AI 的情况。然后我想问一下，就是在台湾现在有没有就是发生一些事情，比如说一些 medical litigation， 就是关于应用到 AI 的情况下发生的呢？因为我们知道，因为在这个如果 AI 在应用 medical 的诊断上的话，有可能也会因为这个情况也造成一些就是misdiagnosis 或者是 delay diagnosis 这样情况，所以这个 accuracy 在这个 AI 应用情况上应该是比较要我们就是怎么讲会比较我们要比较more vigilant 这样 所以我想问一下，就是说在台湾的应用上面有没有遇到这个情况，就是说因为 AI 的应用造成一些medical litigation 这样的情况的？
那个我在做研究的时候，就是在找一些资料的时候是没有看到这些不好的一些 misdiagnosis。不过就是回过头来，就是说 AI 目前就是还在是被研究的一个 topic 啦，就是说大家把它当成是一个辅佐的工具，就不是说一个决定的诊断，它只是提供我们一个说他觉得它的 possibility 有多高。不是说它就一定是这个诊断，所以最后的决定权其实还是回到我们医师身上。目前呢，它的角色是在这里，就像自动车驾驶，虽然大部分人他可以帮我们开，可是我们能需要就是人类去注意这个状况，然后随时去介入去改变，就还没有办法完全交给电动车去开这样。自动车啦，自动车。
Thanks to everyone's participation. Now we need to take a photo with all attendees in this meeting. So participants from Hong Kong, please stay on the screen for a photo taking. And everyone here, please stand up and walk onto the stage. 请大家站起来，走到台前，我们跟讲者跟大家拍一张照。